Hey,
All
there we
right.
go. Perfect.
Yeah,
All
it took us
great.
a while, but we figured it out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
No, it's so funny because I didn't have that icon on the laptop itself, um, and then yeah, right when I joined with the phone, it popped up that way. I'm gonna go
okay.
sneak into one of our little conference rooms over here
Okay, perfect.
so that I can be and then try to set up my phone in an appropriate way.
All right.
Did you get on the course at all this weekend?
I'm going today actually. When we get done, I'm gonna go play today,
All
and
right.
I'm gonna play
Where are you headed
tomorrow.
out? Where are you headed out to?
Starfire today.
Okay, I haven't played that course before.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a nice one. It's cool. It's a nice track. Green. I like all the green courses. All the green ones I like.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can add a desert, and I'll take the green. Yes, keep it real simple. And, I got. Let's see. So, what's happening there? All right. So, uh, it's good. Your market's good today, huh?
Yeah, yeah, we've been moving up the past little while, it seems.
Yeah, it's been on a little run here of late. That's good. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. It's always a good day when you wake up and you see your money growing. That's always good.
Seeing the green. That's what I'm all about, right?
This
We
this
already
is
talked about liking the green earlier today.
that's it. That's it. And dude, hitting the green twice. That's a double bonus. Yeah, double bonus.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
yeah. So it's so we'll probably have a bigger audience. Maybe I don't know because I normally do it in the chat and it pops up on. I guess I could just tag people in it like I did you. But
Sure.
let me see if I can do that. I wish with a button to tag all at the same time.
And no pressure for viewer count, right? Like we'll just
Mm, no, if not, we just talk about it a little bit and
yeah,
educate
yeah.
the people a
Keep
little
it
bit. I
casual.
mean, yeah, it's no pressure in this at all. It's just educating people, uh, helping them learn to make more money or spend better or just become better investors.
Absolutely.
Less of a consumer, more of an investor,
Absolutely.
investing in themselves first, all of that type stuff.
Love
It's,
it.
but yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. If they start popping in, well, it's not 8 o'clock yet either, but it's all right. Start a little early. I just like, hey, what up? What up? What up? What's up, everybody? It's your boy coming at you one more again. We out here talking about these markets a little bit. We're gonna jump into it first. Those Suns looking pretty good. They up 3-1 right now. Look like they got a good chance to make the championship. That's always beautiful. Milwaukee made a little run last night. They didn't close them out, but they closed them out for game 3 or whatever. They up 2-1, so it looked like the Suns gonna see the winner of that one if they close it out. I didn't see them be up 3-1 before and not get it done. It's kind of like these markets. If you invest and you don't invest in the right company and don't close it out, oh man, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. So, but the markets are up today. That's a good thing. The markets are up today. We joined with a partner of mine, man. He a professional. He's with Northwestern Mutual. Harrison Randall, real good guy, man. Got a chance to meet him and talk with him a little bit, and we just gonna chop it up a little bit, and see if we can learn a little something different. And I always try and simplify it. Maybe with a little bit better background or a different perspective, we can make it even more simple. So we're gonna start that today. Harrison, why don't you introduce yourself and let the people know? I know I already told them where you work at, but just tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do. Hey, Lovey, how you doing, baby? Good to see you. Glad you could join us this morning. Go on, tell us a little bit about yourself, Harrison.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Daryl, thanks so much for having me. Again, me and Daryl met up at the Juneteenth tournament this past couple weekends ago and got to talk a little shop out on the golf course. And he invited me out to make an introduction to everyone here on his podcast, and just appreciate the time. So first off, thank you so much for having me.
Man,
And
glad to have
you
you.
know, a little bit of my background. You know, Texas Tech graduate, Rawls College of Business. Been in the finance world ever since. Now, currently, as you spoke, with Northwestern Mutual. Also had a career with Edward Jones before, which is a very, very well-known industry. You know, a common household name, if you will. Edward Jones has become now. So yeah, you know, fully licensed. You know, dealt with the investment side, kind of dealing with some insurance too, and really what I am is a holistic financial planner, right? So making sure we have strategies coming from every angle, and really trying to create what we call bulletproof plans, right? When it comes to finance.
Good
And so, you
morning,
know,
good morning, Lene. I'm just welcoming the people in as they talk. I don't
yeah,
mean to interrupt you.
absolutely.
I like to
No,
acknowledge the people when they join.
yeah, please do. Welcome everyone. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my background, and what we like doing for the clients here. And so I thought today it'd be nice to just kind of share, you know, a 30,000-foot view of kind of what we provide for our clients, right? Kind of like what a first conversation looks like, um, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's I'm sure people get people at their company all the time, blow them off or whatever. And
Sure.
I'm sure you've been in there and you've had people really interested. You help them make a lot of money, and then there've been other people like, well, that doesn't really benefit me. I mean, what are there certain people you look for? Are you trying to help everybody? You know,
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Daryl. I would say, you know, a large driver of my business, right, is people, you know, coming in looking for retirement strategies that have assets that they've built up, and they're looking for plans as far as distribution of wealth. But I would say, you know, where I really find value in my practice is working with, you know, up and coming couples, you know, younger families to middle-aged families that are looking for strategy, looking for advice, and some just education moving forward as far as investment philosophy, investment strategy to kind of achieve the goals that they're looking to get across the course of their life. So I would say, you know, for keeping the lights on,
mhm.
it's larger net worth clients, but I really find value in bringing education to the community and sharing knowledge in that way. Does
Okay.
that answer the question?
It does. It does. So I mean, obviously, it's better to get started younger, or
Absolutely.
when you have a lot of assets. But I mean, for the younger people, what would be some of the advice you have for them getting started out? Maybe, you know, I talk a lot about stocks and just getting into the game, buying low,
Of course.
investing in good companies, staying disciplined in their investment plan. What might be some of the things you have for the younger people out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would preface with is one of Albert Einstein's quotes, right? So Albert Einstein said, "Compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world, and something he still doesn't fully rule of 72," right?
Hmm.
So are you familiar with the rule of 72, Daryl?
No, well, even if I am, I would like everybody to be clear on this. So go
Sure,
ahead.
sure,
Yeah. So talk
absolutely.
about it a little bit.
Right. So essentially, it's going to be 72 divided by interest rates that you're getting in your account. Is how long it's going to take that money to double within there, even if we're not adding or making any changes to it. So let's take some just basic ballpark numbers, you know, 72. And let's say we're making about a 10% interest rate, right,
Okay.
within the accounts that we've invested in. You're looking about every 7.2 years that money is going to double, right? So
Okay.
say $10,000, you know, 7 years you're looking at 20, another 7 years you're looking at 40, another 7 years 80,000, 160, 320, right? So
Say that one more time, because people might not understand how compounding works, but that's exactly what compounding is. You keep putting it in there,
exactly.
and it makes more money because it's growing, and then you can
Hmm.
also add to the compounding by what you're doing with it, correct? Yeah, by continuing to
Absolutely,
invest. Yeah.
absolutely. Sure. And again, to kind of like reiterate that point, right? So every 7.2 years, the money that you have in that account, if you're getting a 10% interest rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're just using that number as a ballpark kind of
Yeah.
round to make the math easy. The money in that account will double even without making a contribution to it, right? So this is why Fortune 500 companies, major assets are held within investment accounts, right? Because they've
Yeah.
been tried and true over time to be a performer. since the inception of the stock market, right? Like, don't we have our ups and downs, right? It's
Yes,
a
we
little
do.
bit of a roller coaster, but
Mm-hmm.
if we look at the graph over time, it's about 7.25 rate of return from the markets from an S&P 500 standpoint.
Which
So
obviously
that's why
it
it's
kills a
so
savings
important
account, if we're
because
correct. Like versus a savings account and investment account, there's no comparison, correct?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I would love the opportunity to dig in a little bit deeper on that side as well. Kind of when it comes to our philosophy, because just as you're speaking to, essentially, savings accounts right now, you'd be lucky to get like 0.1%, right?
Yeah,
Would be a good
yeah,
rate of return.
it's
And
crazy.
a fun fact on that, Uncle Sam's going to come in and tax that 73 cents that you made in that account last year as well.
Exactly.
So be ready to pony up those 20 cents because he's
Yep.
coming at you for it. But what it really gets to within the savings account is, are you familiar with inflation, Daryl? Have you heard around the talk of inflation before?
Yeah, that we could be on the horizon of it could be coming, and that the economy, the way the government's printing money, it's setting up for an inflationary market, and all things we may be looking at. No,
Absolutely,
definitely.
absolutely. And historically, if you look at the price of a cheeseburger in 1965, right, versus today, you could be looking at a nickel versus $5, right?
Correct.
And so that's kind of the an overall encompassing idea behind inflation. And right now, the rates are growing at about 2.5%. And so anything within a savings account, is quite literally losing you money, right? Because
Right.
we're not even achieving the rate at which money is going down versus inflation about 2.5%.
Right.
And so that's why it becomes extremely important to have alternate methods of saving and accruing money so that we can A, outplace inflation, and then B, take advantage of compound interest over time.
Right. All
Yeah.
right. Just out of
Uh,
curiosity, what would be
of
your
course.
number one? What would be your number one product that you deal with on a regular?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would say more than specific product, it's
Mm-hmm.
more investment philosophy for the individual person, right?
Okay.
We deal a lot like to give you like a broad example, right? Like we deal a lot with mutual funds, ETFs, individual stocks within certain accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's through your 401k through work, whether it's through Roth IRAs, or even just traditional brokerage accounts. But do you mind if I take like kind of a step back and maybe give people like an overall
I
like
would
kind of
love for you.
base philosophy? Okay, perfect.
I would love for you to
Um,
do that.
okay, wonderful. I don't know if anyone's taking notes and wants to kind of draw along with me here to kind of give themselves an idea. But when it comes to financial planning, like I really view it as building a financial structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love to make the correlation to a house. And if you just or if you're drawing along, if you want to to join in, if you want to just kind of draw just a simple structure of a house, right? A main frame with a roof on it, and then I'm gonna break this bottom section into just three main parts here. Is that okay? Can you see that
But we
pretty
can see
clearly?
it. Yep. We can see
Okay,
it.
great.
Yep.
So that the three main sections is just going to be like the foundation of the house, right? Like the main structure, the base to grow on. And in that first box, if you want to write emergency cash or just EC,
Okay.
the second main column is going to be DS, which is just a debt strategy, right? And
Okay.
then the third column, if you just want to put a P in that's for protection, right?
Oh,
To make
mm,
sure that we have protection. For the main body of the house, if you just want to put WA, that's the fun stuff to talk about, right? That's the wealth accumulation. That's where your man Daryl's going to come in and maybe have the hot stock or a good idea there. And again, there's a reason that's the main body of the house, right? Because the wealth accumulation portion is extremely important. And then in the very roof of the house, if you want to put a D in there, that comes to distribution. So you've got emergency cash, you have debt strategy, protection, wealth accumulation, and distribution. Um, and so, just a fun little fact within the emergency cash savings. a good number to have in there is about 3 to 6 months of what your fixed expenses look like, right? So paying the rent, paying for groceries, car insurance is covered, all of your kind of lifestyle bills that it would
Hmm.
take to keep your life alive. 3 to 6 months is a
Now, when you say
good number. Yeah,
lifestyle, do you mean essential lifestyle, like things that are essential to your life, or just the way you live your lifestyle in general? But if that's being super flossy with your life, you need to be able to cover that as well in that 3 to 6 months.
absolutely. I would say essential lifestyle, right?
Okay,
Like
okay.
outside of going to the movies, going to get a drink with friends. Um, have money put aside for if the air conditioning goes out, right? If something unfortunately happens with job, we have some sort of protection from that standpoint. And
Right.
the whole idea behind this is just to have liquidity, right? Easy
Hmm.
access to the money. Um,
Absolutely.
and, uh, and again, as we alluded to earlier, you're getting about 0.1% on your money in those specific accounts, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
nothing to write home about, nothing exciting, and that's the whole strategy behind keeping the 3 to 6 months only in that portion,
Yeah.
because anything outside of that, and we're really losing money on the assets there. And
Yeah.
I'll get into a little bit further, like the intentionality of the 3 to 6 months and where that comes from.
Okay.
The next bucket, debt strategy, right? Like
Mhm.
it really important to, and again, like not something that professionally that I deal with, but really important to have these conversations and figure out what debt looks like. A good figure in that area is about 7%. And again, that's very ballpark, right?
Mhm.
And that 7% number comes from the growth in the stock market over time being about 7.25.
Okay.
So anything under 7% can be considered good debt, right?
Mm.
Mortgage, car payments that are underneath that. Anything over that 7% mark, high interest on credit cards, stuff
Yeah.
that we want to start tackling really quickly, right?
Yeah.
Uh, because um, because it's going to be hard to recoup that amount in other vessels, essentially.
And
So anything over 7, we want a strategy to start tackling it down. Anything under 7, we're growing credit on, right?
right.
And can be considered good debt. The very next portion that's extremely important is the protection side, right? So within the protection side, you have safe dollars, right? We're
Mm.
talking about having insurance protection for the family in case something happens and someone doesn't come home, and even something as simple as healthcare, right?
Right.
Believe it or
Very
not,
important.
the number one cause of bankruptcy within the United States right now is medical expenses, right? And not having coverage in that category.
Hmm.
So really important to talk about and just make sure that we have a base level of protection there. Um, then we get to jump in the fun stuff, Daryl. We're past. So, and these are conversations I'll have with my clients in the first meeting, right?
Right.
Is let's look at these different boxes. Can we put a check on emergency cash savings? How are we looking for 3 to 6 months out? What's the debt strategy? What's the protection that we have in place currently? And once we have a good, strong foundation to the house, we can
Hmm.
start moving up into the different categories of wealth accumulation, right? And within these buckets, I don't know if these would ring a bell to you, Daryl, but 401ks through work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs. You can even
Now,
have
I talk about them in
yeah,
general. Which one is the one where your company matches?
yeah,
If I was to tell somebody to get involved, and I always tell them to do the one that the company matches, because I mean a lot of times
absolutely.
when you match it, you're doubling up whatever your investment might be. So,
Absolutely. So traditionally, it's the 401k through work. Well, you'll
okay.
have contribution sharing for your employer.
Hmm.
Um, and understanding those contributions are extremely important because just as Daryl was alluding to, right, it's free money on the table that the company is offering you. So say that within the 401k, they're giving maybe a 3 or a 4% match. Um, in my opinion, crucial to take advantage of those dollars, right? So,
Absolutely.
from a saving standpoint, before we start looking into other buckets, definitely shoot for grabbing whatever the contribution limit to your specific employer is, so that you're not leaving any free money on the table, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then after that, would it be helpful to kind of give your audience an idea of Roth IRAs versus traditional IRAs and kind of
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
education behind that, how that
Yeah,
works?
I mean, because that's all a form of investing, and if they can understand that, that's going to help them better with the stock investing. They might understand why stocks move the way they do. I just believe the
Sure.
more knowledge you have about it, the better investor you're going to be, whether you choose to do it yourself or whether you don't. Like
Absolutely.
my whole thing with doing it was I had a savings account. I had a bunch of money in there, and I wasn't making any money on it. I think I made a $1.27 or something in there,
Of course.
and I think in the first week I even started trading, I made more money than I ever made in a checking account ever. So now that was during the
Yeah.
crash, but it's still the same thing. The market works the same way on a regular basis. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, and why and it's really important to be in overtime, right? To have those long stretches to take advantage of that compounding interest. Kind of on the individual stock side, right? And kind of buying and trading, like if we're opening like a Robinhood account or we have
Hmm.
just a traditional what's called a brokerage account,
Hmm.
that would be one style of account that you can open.
Okay.
In brokerage accounts, how they perform is you can put an unlimited amount of money into them, right? Like they're never
Correct.
going to say, stop putting money in your brokerage
Right.
account. So that's something that we can continue to fund, but not an extremely advantageous from the tax standpoint, right?
So
So
explain that a little bit because I don't
sure,
touch on that a lot, but
sure,
people need to
sure,
understand about the
sure.
tax liability. So
Right, and compliance hat on, right? Financial professional know a lot about taxes, but not a certified CPA or accountant.
correct.
And so please, use those kind of people as resources when it comes to taxes.
Absolutely.
Short-term capital gains under a year, traditionally taxed at your income level, right?
Okay.
And there are some things that'll change based on what your current income level is. Long-term capital gains taxed at 20%. So if we've made $10,000 in an investment and we sell it about a year and a half later, you're looking about $2,000 in capital gains. And again, that will fluctuate based on income level, but that's a pretty round ballpark number.
And not
For
everybody takes it like that. Some people just let it
sure.
run and just take a portion of it off the table, and
Right,
they pay taxes on that portion they take off, and the other
exactly.
money is still growing for them.
Yep, that's correct. So it'll be on the sale of the investment when the taxes come into play, and it'll be gains first, right? So say you've
Correct.
made $2,000 and you sell 1,000, it won't come off what's called the cost basis, which is what you put into it,
Hmm.
but the taxable event will be on the gains on that account. So that's a traditional brokerage account, and then the government has set up vessels for us to prepare for retirement, essentially as like social security measures, right?
Right.
And so the two main vessels right now for those are a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. And so the great thing about these accounts is they're what are called qualified accounts, which means that they're tax advantageous, right? So
Hmm.
outside of the brokerage, which you're going to get taxed for long-term capital gains, the gains within these accounts can actually grow over time and have less tax implication. So the way that the Roth IRA works is that it'll be money that you've already paid out taxes to Uncle Sam, right? So you've
Okay.
seen it come off the paycheck. You've given him a piece of the pie, and then you're putting money into a Roth IRA, and those can continue to grow, and you won't pay taxes on the gains within that account, right?
Okay.
But it's specifically set to be a retirement account.
Right.
So to be accessed at 59 and a half right now is the age restriction to not have a taxable event on the Roth IRA. And then the IRA, on the other hand, very similar vessel, created for retirement and long-term strategy as well. But it'll be pre-tax dollars, right? So before Uncle Sam comes and takes the money out of your paycheck, you can put that all into an IRA account, and it can grow tax advantageously over time as well. Except who's going to come knocking at your door one day, Daryl, right?
Wait
Saying,
there,
hey,
hey, he can get you on the front end, get you on the back end. He's gonna get you
they're
one
going to
way or
get
the
you
other.
somewhere, right? They're going to get you somewhere.
But with
And so
that particular one, that's the one where it helps with your income base right now.
right,
So it lowers your income now, so
right,
you're not paying as much taxes on it at this time. Where
exactly.
and because he's coming doesn't mean he's gonna get it. I mean, you could always defer that and let that money grow and just be a part of your long-term wealth or your family's wealth or whatever it may be. Correct? Or I don't want to
So
speak. I don't want to overgeneralize it.
yeah, no, that's very, very close, very close. So
Okay.
the advantageous thing behind the Roth IRA that you've already paid the taxes in is it can continue to grow, and you never have to access that money, right? Because
Right.
you've already paid the taxes on it. With the traditional IRA, and typically this is how 401ks are set up as well. check with your employer because you might be able to do a Roth IRA
Okay.
through them. But the traditional IRA and the 401k, it's going to be at age 72 where he's going to come and say, hey, this account has been growing. You haven't paid any taxes on it. And so you will be required to start taking distributions from those accounts
Okay.
at that time. And it's called it's an RMD, a required distribution that then Uncle Sam's going to come and say, this amount per month needs to be allocated out of that account, and they're going to take taxes on it that time. Just as you were alluding to, Daryl, right? The whole philosophy behind the traditional IRA is you say you're in your 40s and 50s, you're in your high income earning years, making more than you have before.
Right.
We're not paying those taxes now, and we're deferring it till later. When we're in retirement, we're not working and potentially have a lower income to pay a lower tax bracket.
Correct.
Yep.
Exactly.
So that's the strategy there. Any questions? I know that's a lot of information.
Yeah, I mean, usually when people in the chat, they got something, they'll just throw it out there. If they have it, just keep eye on it. We'll address it if they speak on it.
Perfect.
So we talked about the younger people a little bit. What about somebody 45 to 50? I don't know. Most people I guess make somewhere between $40,000 and $70,000. We all know people that make more. We know people that make less. So I'm guessing the average person makes between 40 and 70,000. They're 45 years old. They hadn't really thought about their retirement plan. And they're trying to make an exit strategy. What might be some advice for somebody like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important would be understanding the contribution limits and the max amount of money that you're able to put away in these specific vessels. So a 401k through work, you can currently put $19,500 into your 401k. It is going to be where the savings is maxed out there. With the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA, there are contribution limits of $6,000, and then at age 55, you can make what's called a catch-up contribution as well, which allows for another $500. So you can essentially at that point in your later income earning years put an extra $500 into that account. So. I feel like when we start nearing retirement age, it really becomes about let's find vehicles that we can start contributing the max amount of those qualified dollars to really start saving and preparing and get as many compounding effects as we can moving into retirement. Because if you're, let's say let's do 65 minus 21. Let's say you're about 44 years old right now. You could potentially have 3 compounding effects still ahead of you before retirement. So pummeling as much money into those vessels to try to get it growing later is extremely beneficial.
Okay, so and it's never too late to get started.
It's never too late.
Never
Yeah. No one ever said I wish I would have waited in this category specifically. I've still yet to have any client come to me and say, Harrison, I really wish I would have just waited a little longer before I started saving. So,
okay. Good. What's some other stuff we have?
If you're open to it, I'd like to touch on the last bucket, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Getting into the distribution phase,
yes.
right? Which is so about 5 years prior to retirement and the 5 years going into retirement, that 10-year span is extremely crucial to have a strategy set in place. And so, we've been talking a lot about, the wealth accumulation standpoint, kind of the main body of the house, which is, very asset-based and very market-tied. When it comes to distribution, it can be extremely beneficial to have non-correlated assets as well. And so these can be, products like there's cash value life insurance that you can take advantage of. There's some fixed indexed annuities. There's different products in this area that money can continue to grow at a much better rate than in a savings account, but that's not market correlated. And the reason that is really important is because in the distribution phase and just the stock market in general, a good rule is about 70% up and about 30% down over time is when we look at the market. So 70% of the time we're up here, the market's doing well. And then about 30% of the time, we're seeing drops, we're seeing declines, right? And so making sure that we have strategies in place to take advantage of when the market's up and when the market's down.
What are some of the things you
Yeah,
do for your clients when they're in that 30% and they're panicking a little bit and they've
absolutely.
invested quite a bit for you? What are some of the things you do to help them feel comfortable about it?
That's
Or
that's a that's a great question.
okay.
I double as a therapist here in the office as well. And
Okay.
and yeah, yeah, because what's most crucial is that you're put on essentially a ride, a roller coaster ride that you're comfortable with, right? Because we see the most detriment and where people really make huge impacts to their net worth over time is when they're selling out at a low, right? And everyone says, buy low, sell high, which comes, it rolls off the tongue really easily.
Yeah, everybody get the
But it,
concept. Yeah.
Exactly, but when it comes to money, we are emotional and not logical most of the time. And if you look at the graphs between when people buy and when people sell accounts, it's polar opposite to what would be basic knowledge, right?
Right.
People are selling low, they're buying high, and that's just kind of been the tradition that the average investor has. And so aligning with yourself with a professional, such as myself, or someone that you feel that you have a good relationship with, someone you feel you can trust. Extremely important because they will kind of talk you through when the market's down, explain to you what the investments are you own, why you own them, and that it's tried and true that it will recover over time. And you just really got to keep that seatbelt fastened and and be ready for it. And so that's again why it can be really important to have non-market correlated assets, right?
Right.
Because if we're dumping into 401ks, if we're dumping into Roth IRAs, and the market is down for that 30% of the time, we do not want to touch those assets. We're doing a huge detriment to ourselves if we're selling at a low. And
Right.
so if we've strategically positioned within, one of the products that I love to use is what's called cash value life insurance, right?
Okay. I've
And
heard a
it
little bit
grows.
about that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal vessel, and it grows at about 4 to 5%, right? So much lower than the market. But for clients that I've had that have built up money inside of cash value policies, not only are we setting ourselves up for distribution and retirement, but we're
Right.
able to take advantage of those market downturns, right? Like so when we see, I mean, it's crazy how on the head it's been for the decades, right?
Right.
When we look at 2000, 2008, now 2019 with COVID, it seems to be about every 10 years we see a major recession, to about a 30 to 40% drop in the market.
But a great
Um,
opportunity for people to make money there.
a phenomenal opportunity. And so that's why it's important to not just do this or this, but this and this, right? So that we can we can be as advantageous in those times to take care of those downturns. So quick plug for the cash value, because it takes about 10 years to be a good time to access that asset. And so, yeah, starting right now, we're preparing for COVID 2.0, right? To make sure
That's right. That's right.
that we have some cash on the side for those sort of instances. And typically, real estate's dropping at those points as well. So I'm making real estate investments, and strategically positioning yourself kind of on multiple fronts, and especially in the distribution state, right? Because 70% of the time we're selling off of those qualified accounts. The market's up, we're selling high, right? And then
Right.
the other 30% of the time when it's down, we have alternate vessels to pull from.
Exactly.
So and I can bring you some staggering numbers on those, if you're ever interested, or
Okay.
want to share an email. I can send out just some paperwork on account value differences based on not selling when the market's down. Like one of my favorite studies is a couple age 65, $1.5 million saved up. And it was a study from 65 to 85, and in 2 years they're taking about $120,000 a year in distributions, right,
Just
to
maintain
pay
their
for their
lifestyle.
right, maintain their retirement, and and uh, and in only 2 years between 65 and 85, if they had different vessels to pull from outside of market while the market was down, their account value changed from 1.45 million, which is great, 1.5 to 1.45. We're doing good, right? As far as
Right.
an investing standpoint, like we're maintaining the balance. We're using it to our money to work for us.
Yeah, exactly.
But if they had other vessels, it was $2.8 million in net worth, right? So literally like $1.4 million difference.
Which is a huge difference for most of us.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, if $1.4 million is not a substantial amount of money to you, give me a
They
call
don't
because
need
I'm
me
just
or you.
chasing.
They
Yeah,
need
yeah.
you more than they need me if that's the case. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, yeah. I would imagine for anyone on the block, or in anyone anywhere that that's a good chunk of change. So yeah, yeah. Any questions there? I know that's again like a lot of information.
It
Um,
is. I mean, but I want everybody to hear it. It's things we need to know. Let's see. What is let's see. So the older clients, the younger clients, we touched on that. Uh, me and you talked about streams of income,
right.
and you briefly touched on some of that. Um, what are maybe the most common streams of income that I don't know. I'm gonna go back to that range where most people fall in, that 40
Sure.
to $70,000 range. What are some streams of income they can get going, whether it's now, down the road, whether it's long term, short term? Like I get people all the time in your couch. That's crazy. I know that's not where it's at, but I get people all the time like, well, how do I do it quickly? Like, I don't know how you do it quickly, but you'd be surprised if you just start. I hate to use the term throwing it at the market or throwing it at your investment, but if you
Sure.
find yourself investing first, you'll find yourself accumulating more wealth just through doing that than a savings account. A lot of times, a savings account, you'll do it,
Absolutely.
but you're saving for, I'm saving to get this, or I'm saving to do that, or I'm saving in case of this. And that doesn't
Hmm.
become a priority. But when you start to see your money grow because you're investing in it, you see that, and then your investment strategy starts to grow as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to speak to that point, really having intentionality behind your dollars, right? And
Mhm.
understanding the purpose for what you're using that money for. Because I don't know about you, Daryl, but if I just throw money in my checking account, it tends to go out just as quickly as it
Yeah,
comes in, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so for some people, it can even just be setting up a second savings account, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
outside of the one that you're typically using, and maybe hide that debit or credit card in a far corner of the room,
Right.
just to kind of give yourself, a way to put some money aside. I think a good start as far as an investment vehicle, especially in the kind of like medium net worth range, is
Mm-hmm.
mutual funds, right? Like I don't know if you've talked a lot about mutual funds on the
We
channel.
have well, we talked about ETFs a little bit more, but
Yeah,
mutual funds. Let's talk about that a little bit because I always brush over that. I talk about the
sure.
ETFs a little bit more. So mutual funds are important investments. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can kind of give you the difference between a mutual fund and an ETF, and kind of, how those two different vessels are similar but different at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a mutual fund, similarly to an ETF, is going to be a conglomerate or a big, group of different stocks or bonds,
Correct.
within itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially, when you're purchasing into these products, what you're getting is it again for each person based on risk tolerance, kind of based on their time horizon for retirement, the level of risk that they want to take in the accounts will fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a broad perspective, you're getting access to hundreds, maybe even thousands of different stocks just
Mm-hmm.
by holding one product, right?
Okay.
So rather, it's like say we have $10,000 to invest. you know, we can't buy one of Apple, Nike, Berkshire Hathaway, Johnson and Johnson. We've already shelled out our $10,000 there,
Right.
and so the mutual funds and the ETFs give you a access to a whole group of funds, or a whole group of investments for whatever that specific fund is holding. And each one will have, different strategies behind it, whether it's for growth or for value.
Mm-hmm.
Some will focus on technology, and so even having a broad array of mutual funds within the portfolio can give
Right.
you a high level of diversity,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is extremely important when it comes to market volatility. So say we're writing the ETF of the S&P 500. during COVID, we might see a downturn of 35%, where a well-diversified, portfolio of mutual funds might see a downturn of about like 20 to 25%.
Yeah.
And similarly on the upside as well. The difference between the mutual funds and the ETFs that both hold a big group of holdings within them, ETFs are typically passive investments, which means that what's held in them will stay tried and true. Whether it's a Russell 2000 index, an S&P 500, it'll quite literally hold those specific investments in them, and it doesn't fluctuate. A mutual fund, on the other hand, is what's called active management. And so it will have a manager that's tied to the fund, which is physically, day to day making trades and moving money around within the fund based on what's happening in the market.
Right.
And so, you might say, well, why wouldn't I want someone actively managing it versus something that's just stagnant like an ETF? Well, you're paying for it, right? Essentially.
Right.
And so the costs that are allocated, it's called an expense ratio, which is the cost that's within ETFs, it's within mutual funds. The expense ratios within mutual funds are more expensive than ETFs, right? And so a lot of people will say, hey, I don't want to pay, the fees that are inside mutual funds, and so I'm going to go to the ETFs. And then the other side of the story is, I'm going to pay the fees within the mutual funds because I think that they'll outperform the ETF over time, right? So that's the constant battle of the mutual fund ETF that's going on all the time. Is it worth to pay for the active management, or do we want lower costs in a passive fund? So is that helpful?
It is. So the mutual and ETF is going to provide a more consistent turnaround or growth process. Whereas, actively saying, okay, well, I like Apple or I like Google, those when they hit spurts, they can tend to grow more quickly.
Sure.
But they also could fall more. They're more volatile, I guess is the word I'm looking for. There's more volatility, but you could also see greater growth quicker. And it's really a matter of your investment strategy at that point. Absolutely.
And it really gets to not having your eggs in one basket, right? Just in case, something happens to that basket, we want to make sure that we're not 100% into one specific thing. And so the mutual funds and the ETFs, they give you access to a broad array of investments for whatever you're looking to commit to. So, yeah.
And the ETFs you usually can find in your typical brokerage accounts.
Yep.
Mutual funds are outside of that, right? Like in general.
Yeah. You can hold. So both ETFs and mutual funds, you can hold in traditional brokerage, which is the tax advantage, or the what's going to be taxed over time. They can also be in your 401ks and your IRAs, and all of those qualified accounts as well. So all of the investment accounts can hold both of those products within them. And honestly, here for both our brokerage or our investment accounts or our qualified accounts, we use a nice balance of mutual funds and ETFs to try to seek both performance and kind of keep those costs at a reasonable manner. So our strategy here at the firm is to fully encompass all of those products together to try to provide the highest value to the customer.
Say somebody has some more questions, and because I don't want to leave this out. Somebody has some more questions. They want to get more in detail, or they're like, man, Daryl, you're helping me with the stock side of it, but I need something I can go to work, and I need somebody that can help me do this on a different level. How would somebody get in touch with you? Maybe an email or just, go ahead, drop that information out.
Yeah. You can always, it's Harrison, HARRISON .Randall, RANDALL @northwesternmutual.com. You can always reach me at the office line here too, which is 480-722-7700. Or I'm an easygoing guy. You can shoot me a text or a call just to my cell phone, which is 512-740-3412. Any questions or concerns, or trying to get any of these account types set up, be happy to at least provide education and see if we'd be a good fit for working together. Be happy to help out on that front.
And you know, what I like to say, everybody, man, not everybody just gives information away. A lot of people are looking to make money off of it. Harrison's, I didn't have to pay him one dime to be here today. Like, you know, I know you say, well, he'll get it on the back end. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But he didn't have to just give up his time and today. And we really appreciate him being with us. I hope you take it back. If you're looking into some of those vessels, I hope you're taking them, because I know a lot of my people are coming up on those retirement years. I know I got some of my young people that when they get to those retirement years, they don't want to worry about the retirement year. They want to already be situated. So
Sure.
don't hesitate to reach out to them. Man, you got a wealth of knowledge, as you can see. We just cracked the barrel today. You can get so much more deeper into it. It's just we can't hit on everybody's situation. So,
Sure.
but if you have something, you know, where you want to talk to them about, it's a great opportunity great opportunity to reach out to them and see something specified for your particular lifestyle or where you're at in life.
And
Harrison,
again, just like,
you got anything for the
yeah,
people
yeah,
on the way out?
I was gonna say, just like the conversation today, you know, love providing education, and it's zero cost to sit down with me. So it's something I love providing the community. Like I joke, I'm out here preserving Social Security, right? So I will present you my thing is I will present you with a plan, right? Free of charge, and what you choose to do with it, whether you think we'd be good working together, or you can at least go home and have some strategy and some ideas moving forward. Say you're working with someone already, or looking to join up with a professional such as myself. It's something that I provide to the community, and happy to do for an individual. And give me a call, because as Daryl was saying, right, every single person has different goals, different things that they're trying to do, and we want to make sure that we have a plan that's individualized for what you're trying to accomplish in life, right? And making sure that we have a strategy in place to try to make your financial dreams come true, right? And so I'm also very candid, right? Like I'll tell you, you know, this is what you're trying to accomplish. This is what it looks like to get there. And so I'll shoot straight, if that makes
Well,
sense.
that's how
I'm not
people
going to
want it
put a
with their
lot of
money.
fluff
So,
on it, right?
you know.
And so if that's something that you appreciate, you know, give me a shout. I'd be happy to help out. And Daryl, thank you so much for having me today. Love doing this sort of stuff, man. If you ever want me on again, you got my cell phone. Shoot me a call, give me a text, shoot me an email. And I've got a couple guys in the office here, that I'd maybe love to bring on with me as well too. You know, we say the more minds, the merrier.
Yes, sir.
I've got a phenomenal team here at Northwestern Mutual, and each of these guys we specify in different categories. And I would love the opportunity to kind of dig into the cash value side, and kind of the protection side as well, because they're just crucial pieces of the pie, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, if you'd like the opportunity to dig in that further, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, you put it out there.
I'll
You put it
catch you
out
on the
there. We're
golf
gonna
course
do it. It's
soon.
too late.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
Yes,
good.
sir.
No, happy to help in any way I can, and just be a resource to the community. So.
Perfect. Harrison, man, it's been great having you, man. We are gonna have you back.
Sounds great.
I love the information you gave today. I'm sure everybody out there. Oh, one last thing before we get out of
Yeah.
here. You know, so I have people that work in companies, and sometimes they get bonuses. You know, and a lot of times those companies will give you it in the form of stock options or something
Sure.
of that nature. And a lot of
Sure.
people will cash that out and take the money and not realize the benefits of just hanging on to the stock for the long term.
Sure.
Just to close out, what might you give those type of people advice on what they're doing with their stock options? I guess is what they would be called. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I would say, you know, it's really important to kind of getting back to the term of intentionality, right? Like, like having purpose behind those dollars, because just as we alluded to earlier, you know, if we're selling out the stock options and putting it in checking, you know, it's likely going to, you know, a day at the mall, right? Or going out and getting some food, or at a restaurant. Which we want to make sure that we're doing all of those things, right? Like, we're human beings. We want to make sure we're having fun and having a good time. But those, man, especially if you believe in the company, right? Like, that money's tied to the growth of the company, right?
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
you know, those stock options, it goes straight back to that compounding effect, right? If you get $10,000 in stock options as a bonus, and let's say back to that 10%, say every 7 years, um, that money's doubling within that account, over, let's make it, 35 years, say, until retirement, that account is looking at 20 for the first time, 40, 80, that 100 and or that $10,000 just became $160,000, right?
Well,
And
you,
so the 10,000 that you spend on going out to eat actually costs $160,000 at the end of the day. And
right.
so that's why I know we're getting close to the end here, but I work with some younger people in the firefighting realm, or I
Right.
don't want to give out too much information, but that we got younger guys that'll go spend $40,000 on a nice truck,
Yeah.
and I don't want to sell myself short, but I'm driving a 2016 Nissan Altima, right? And so,
Hmm.
and trust me, I have reasoning behind that. It's because that truck's going to cost you $500,000 at the
Yes,
end
it
of the
is.
day.
Yep.
And so, we all want to live our life, right? We want to have a good time. But understanding the goals we're trying to achieve
Absolutely.
to make responsible decisions today,
Yes.
and how that can affect the future. So, yeah.
Cool. Great deal, man. Hey, everybody, man. It's been beautiful, man. We're going to get out of here today. Like, hey, still the same. Still want to invest in these good companies. We want to get them at low prices. We want to be disciplined in our investment. We want to take care of our health. Because the longer we're here, the more money we can accumulate. We're going to take care of our wealth. We're going to invest in ourselves first. Man, Harrison, it's been great having you here today, man. I can't wait to
Thanks
have
again.
you on again. I appreciate your time. I know everybody else appreciates your time. Belly Gang, I love y'all. Me and Harrison, we out. And we'll talk to you real soon. Hey,
Bye,
Harrison,
guys.
thanks. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a great
All
day.
right. You too. All right, everybody.
Bye bye.